I tell you, I went away saying, if this guy is what he appears to be, he's amazing.
Well,
Hey everyone, welcome to the Firestone Files. I am Dr. Chris Firestone, and today I have for you an interview with President and Pastor Eric Capaci of Hot Springs, Arkansas. He has become a great friend, co-sojourner in the kingdom work down here in Hot Springs, and I'm so excited to be able to bring this interview to you here on the Firestone Files. Hope you enjoy the show, and do reach out if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to hear any other interviews or have me dig a little deeper next time. Love to hear from you. But for now, enjoy Eric Capaci, President and Pastor and friend here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Firestone Files. I am so excited today to have a man here who's been really important to my life, into my transition, and really to the very possibility of the Firestone Files. And that's Pastor and President Eric Capaci. I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you for coming and I don't exactly know how to put it, to just gracing the files here.
it's my honor. I've been looking forward to it. Yeah.
Well, we've known each other, I think now for closing in on 2 years. And you came along in a time in my life where I was searching for new endeavors. And one of the reasons I came, and people on the Firestone Files who are listening along will know that I was looking at Hot Springs because my dad was here. My mom passed away years ago. And just trying to see if God had any opportunity here for us. And part of that journey for me was seeing this small Christian liberal arts college, Champion Christian College. What is this here? I've got to check this guy out. And so I sent some email, I think at least one email to you, maybe two. And now that I look back at it from years later, I see this guy's busy. I mean, he probably gets so many of these kinds of emails. And so nothing happened that year. I was still at Trinity working there as a professor of philosophy. But as it got more serious on my end, I reached out again. I said, I really have to see if I can meet this fellow who I see on the internet, President Capaci. Sent another email, and you graced me with a coffee in a coffee shop that has an interesting name. It's very similar to your name, the Capaci Coffee Shop.
That's right.
And that's where we first met. And what do you remember about that meeting? This guy you met coming in, and what? Maybe you could tell us that story a little bit.
Well, you made a really great first impression, and I think some of that had to do with the fact that Emma was with you. And I've always had a special place for Emma. She's the first Firestone I think that I actually knew, yes. And so it was fun having coffee that morning. But yes, I was anticipating. I was excited about what's going to come out of this? I was looking forward to it. I remember that. And then when I left, I do know, and I tend to be, I get excited about watching, I can watch two ants racing down a sidewalk and cheer for one and boo for the other. Yes. So I tend to be excited initially about a lot of things. But I was excited, Chris, about that conversation, and felt like, it may not go anywhere. This may be just a casual friendship that has distance between it. Yes. But I can tell you that was the beginning of why we're sitting here right now, 2 years later. And thankfully, and I'm grateful, it had much more than just a casual acquaintance.
Well, I got in that little snippet with you, I think it was like an hour, I think, maybe, if I was guessing, a picture of your life. And I said, man, this guy really brings it. He's got energy. He's got vision. And he's got story and family. And it's some of the stuff I'm hoping to capture here in this conversation today. But The one thing I have to tell this story because you got excited about some of the stuff we were talking about. We were visionizing a little bit together about possibilities, and coffee was in your hand, and you got excited. You knocked the coffee airborne. You kind of spilled over yourself. You didn't even flinch, though. You said, "Somebody grab me some napkins." So they hustled some napkins over to you, cleaned up, and we finished our conversation.
You know, my dad has a great influence on my life. He still lives in New Orleans. He's 85 years old. And my dad has said to me all my life since day one, when those moments happen, you roll with the punches. And so I knew I was standing before a professor that I met for the first time, and probably, Chris, behind in my mind that I didn't display was, man, I'm embarrassed right now, but you know what? There's no turning back.
I tell you, I went away saying, if this guy is what he appears to be, he's amazing.
Well, anybody can just keep going after a coffee spill.
We as you know, we talked and we kept going, and now I work for Champion Christian College. I think it was maybe a year after that or so. That did come together by God's grace. But I'm not here to tell a story of me in Champion. People already probably know a little bit about that. I'm kind of you mentioned New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
I know California is in your history. I know the Chicago area in some way is in your history. Right. And then you land in Hot Springs. That seems like a pretty circuitous route. Could you just give us, a thumbnail sketch of how that happens to somebody?
Yeah. So, my journey began in New Orleans, Louisiana, as a Roman Catholic altar boy, born to two wonderful parents whose marriage did not survive in their early years, and wonderful parents, though. Great parents. They could have written a book on, divorce, I guess, is never good, but they handled it in a way that their two boys are successful Baptist preachers. And my brother actually established the church I pastor and the college we have now. Oh, he was my right-hand man in both those journeys. So after New Orleans, my mom moved. So here's where Hot Springs comes into the picture. She moved to Hot Springs. She was an RN in New Orleans, working for Hotel Dieu Hospital, and she was an incredible IV therapist. She could hit a needle, Chris. She could hit a vein, rather, with a needle first time every time. I mean, it was so fascinating. It was like she was a magician with a needle. And I know how phenomenal that is, because if you've ever had a vein missed before.
Yeah, my wife has gone through a couple times, and they can never find hers, apparently. But maybe
there are
the
nurses.
All-powerful object meets the immovable object, and something has to give there.
Something has, and my mom was one of those people. So she was offered a job at the age of, I was 13, living in New Orleans. She was offered a job at multiple cities across the United States: Chicago, LA, Miami, and Hot Springs. Oddly enough, wanted to start what was going to be called an IV therapy unit.
Yes.
These were new. This was a nuance that never had entered the medical field before, but they were going to actually have nurses that all they did was IVs.
Yes.
All over the hospital. So she started the first one in Hot Springs. She moved to Hot Springs because she did not want us to be far away from our daddy.
So that means you were here in Hot Springs early on.
Exactly.
Before you went to California, Chicago area, that sort of thing. It was
like a 5-year stint that I was here. That's when I met the Lord. We can come back to that.
Right.
But I met the Lord there, then went to seminary in Chicago. So that was my Chicago life for 5 years.
Oh, yes.
Stayed long enough to get a degree and a master's degree.
Yes.
Then met my bride there, Carol Ann, my beautiful bride. And we stayed there a year, moved to California, where I was a youth pastor at a large inner city church in LA for 2 years. And then cross country, back to Hot Springs. Never thought I'd be here. I honestly thought I'd be in New Orleans, being planning a church there, my hometown that I dearly love.
Yes.
But man, I love this city, and I'm committed to it.
Now, was there a connection between your 5 years when you met the Lord here in Hot Springs and your desire to come back here after the California thing?
Not really. That's what's interesting, is that what makes me coming back to Hot Springs so really unique, special, and really somewhat supernatural is it wasn't on my radar screen until I received a phone call from a man in this city who said to me in California randomly, he said, "Look, Eric, I know you have no desire to come back to Hot Springs. I know you're a big city guy." And yes. I was born in New Orleans, school in Chicago, job in LA. I mean, I was not a small town guy. Still, I'm not really. As far as my when I vacation, I want to vacation in the big city downtown. I'm just that kind of person. Okay, teach his own. But he invited me. He said, "Look, we've got about 15 people.
Yes.
We're looking for someone that would start a church here, and we're asking if you'd be interested."
Wow.
And
that's pretty cool. It seems to, I mean, maybe I'm over spiritualizing, but it seems to be at least poetic that you had this experience with your mom here for 5 years, and then you got a call for somebody calling you from this place that you'd long forgotten about.
Exactly. No, that's well put. And really, I've never been asked that question just like that. So I really appreciate the direct question, because it really makes me appreciate just the sovereign hand of God in our lives as he moves pieces that we can't see.
Yes.
And he moved on that man's heart. And to this day, I can thank him. He's still in Hot Springs, still part of our church, and I can thank him for that.
Okay. And one of the touch points between the Capacis and the Firestones is that my dad and mom came here almost the exact same year. Wow. Which is, I don't think you guys, well, you probably crossed each other's path at Kroger or something, but
so 92, is that right?
Yeah. It was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I bet we did. I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was right. It was 92, 93 range where they moved. They had an early retirement and decided, because my grandparents had been down here. They decided to come down right at that same time. So, now, so you came here and you started a ministry, but I want to go back to that point, because one of the things you showed me when we were negotiating the possibility of me coming here, you wanted to show me your story, and you took me over to this parking lot. I don't know, between your house basically and Champion, right, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly where it is. And there's a plaque on the ground that has your name on it. What does it say? It says something to the effect that you accepted the Lord
on that spot.
I don't know what, 40 years ago or whatever it was.
Right. It would have been 1978, September the 1st.
Okay.
So my mother moved us here, and she was attending the church that was on that corner. We were attending St. John's Catholic Church, and just continuing in the tradition that is all we knew.
Yes.
And Mom was attending a more evangelical church on that corner. And so one particular Sunday, she asked her two boys, would you go with me? And we said, Mom, if you'll let us go to Mass on Saturday, we'll go to church with you on Sunday. We were that devoted. We were the two of the most religious little boys you've ever seen. And I mean, in some context, the word religion is okay. I mean, in others, it's not. But I say in this conversation, we were definitely super religious boys. We didn't really know Jesus personally, but we knew all about religion and God and rules and following those things. So she brought us to church on Saturday, and then Sunday we went with her. We kept our promise.
Oh, my goodness.
It was in that service that we first really heard the clear gospel of Jesus Christ, the death,
yes,
burial, and resurrection, the free gift of salvation. And my brother and I both received Christ as our Savior and were baptized. And so when I started this church and told that story, one of the people in the church presented me with that plaque and said, take me to the spot. And I went to the spot, and they had it professionally ingrained in that concrete.
Yes.
And that blacktop.
Yeah.
And there it is. And so
yeah,
it's been a great celebration. I often go to that spot, look at it, and weep.
Yeah.
Remember the day that I knelt there. We figured it out because the building burnt down.
Yes.
But I was able to pretty much get somebody that had been in that building for years to take me to the spot.
Well, I do think that was one of the things, among several things, that began to convince me that you weren't any ordinary preacher, that you were rooted here. You have a story to tell. It began on this spot. You took me to that spot, and then you showed me the rest of the ministry and all the various facets of it. And I go, wow, that's an impressive layout. And I want to get to some of that as we go along here, but maybe we can stay with that thread for a moment, because I'm intrigued by it, the ministry thread. Now you're back, you take this calling, 15 people. I mean, where'd you live? I mean, I've heard stories about, I don't know if they're true stories.
Oh, yeah.
You're living, I mean, it's almost stereotypical of Arkansas in some ways. You're living in a trailer home. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, actually, the first place we lived before the trailer home was we came across country, and one of the 15 people had a house that they weren't renting at the time. It was a businessman who he had several properties. And he said, Eric, look, I've got a place for you and your brother and your wives and your children, but it's out in the middle of the woods.
Yes.
And it's called Jaguar Trail. I could take you to the road, take you to the exact house.
Is there a plaque there too, or no?
No plaque.
Okay.
But there is a Jaguar Trail street. You
Okay.
can't hardly see it, but it's on the way to Little Rock. But it's crazy. So he took me to the spot, and I remember looking at my wife and saying, honey, this is crazy. I mean, there's going to be ticks and fleas and roaches and rats and who knows what else out here, you know. And sure enough, we could tell you some stories. So my brother lived in one room with his wife. I lived in one room with my wife, and we had both the babies in the other room. It was $350 a month. We split the rent, and we lived there for probably 6 months until I bought a used mobile home from him. He actually had a big mobile home park that he was selling and he sold me one for cost. You know, I think it was used or something. And so then we put that in a mobile home park.
Yes.
And, you know, interesting story about that mobile home park. I had somebody who visited our church 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And on the way out, this is just real time, shook my hand and said, do you remember Mr. R.C. Combs?
Yes.
And I said, I sure do. He was my landlord. He owned the R.C. Combs mobile home park. And she looked at me, she says, I'm his daughter.
Oh my goodness.
He always told me about you. He said, you know, I got a Baptist preacher in my mobile home park. He said, I feel better about my park with a preacher there. But the daughter, she said he's gone now. He had gone to heaven. But I thought that was neat. You know,
that is neat. It kind of reminds me of being in a faculty meeting last year, and one of the adjunct faculty's name slipping my mind at the moment. She said, do you know a Harry Firestone? I go, yeah, that's my dad. Yeah, we rented a house from him for a number of years because he had a few houses that he was renting back in the day. Yeah. He sold them now. But that's amazing when you're rooted in a place and you're putting down roots and you get to know people, how that makes a difference in people's lives.
It really does. You never know. You just cast your bed upon the water and it returns.
So you're in the trailer home. How long were you in this trailer home?
Oh my goodness, probably 10 years.
10 years, okay.
I remember we sold it to a man that's still in our church as well. I think I bought it for $18,000, sold it for 10. That's
pretty good return on a trailer.
Not bad.
But there is inflation. Oh my goodness! And then is that when did you move into the house you're currently in?
In 1990, we had a family in our church that so it'd have been what. Moved here 2000. I'm sorry. We moved here 92 is when we started the church. 2000, my bad. 2000 is when, so about 8 years in the mobile home. Moved in that house, and maybe in 2001. But we had a family in the church because she built spec homes.
Yes.
And she said, preacher, where do you want to live? I said, I'd like to live close to the church. My life is wrapped up in this whole thing.
Yes.
And she said, well, find a lot. So I found a lot on 3rd Street for $10,000. Never forget it. I called the guy and said, I'll take $10,000 for the lot. I gave him $10,000 for the lot. And her and her husband built me a spec home.
Oh my goodness.
It was amazing. Yeah. We couldn't believe it. And we could not have done it without that couple. Still in our church, Dave and Sonia Chittum.
Oh my
They're
goodness.
Still there, you know.
Well, yeah, I know how one of the things that if you do come into this sphere of the Capaci influence, you're going to get into that home probably on a Sunday afternoon for lunch, but that wide open space, that ability to be hospitable and host and all of that. I mean, those were, I think meeting you up front and then going to your home, those were two pretty good bookends and saying, man, this guy is legit. Well, it's such a solid group over there.
I feel the same way about being in your home, Chris. You can just tell that it's not about the location of the home. It's not about the size of the home. It's not about, the decor. It's about the love, the hospitality, the welcoming. And you have that, and we have that too. We just really cherish that. And that's why we're so happy to be on 3rd Street. I laugh about it. I talk about it, living in the hood and just being close to the church. And now we own 6-7 houses on that street. All my kids live on that street not all, but most of them.
Yes.
And family and my mother-in-law, and it's just become a little Capaci.
I know it well. I've been over there a few times, as you know, and I bike past there sometimes when I'm biking from my house to campus and so forth. That's just a great thing that you've done there. It does bring up my next question for you. I mean, I'm thinking about the Capaci family at this point. Now, I heard you say that you had one child in that trailer home. Is that Mo?
Mo.
Okay, Mo's the oldest. And then you have 5 kids. The Firestones have 5 kids. We have 2 boys and 3 girls. You have 3 boys and 2 girls.
Right.
And people who are watching the show here will know that the Firestones are probably more nomadic in their approach to life. I mean, they're kind of going all over the place. I've got one in California. I've got one in Chicago. I've got one in Indiana, one in Tennessee, and 2 in Tennessee, I guess, right now. One's going to school there. And so, but they love to come back. They love to participate in things together, trying to foster that kind of family dynamic where, yeah, they're individual starters, but they're also in love with each other, as it were, just wanting to build something together whenever they can. That isn't a lot. I mean, every couple of months, or the kids will come over, or we'll meet somewhere and so forth. But that's a slightly different thing than what the Capacis have done. Similar family dynamics, but a lot of them have set up shop and have their own businesses or relationship to either Gospel Light or to Champion, but they're in the neighborhood and they're putting roots down here. How do you process? I mean, how did that come about, and why does that work so well?
Yes, my wife and I always like to preface our answer to a question like that by saying that we by no means had any plans or persuasion to make that happen.
Right.
It was a God thing, and each individual child, Matthias, Josiah, Ezekiel, Chloe, Glorianne, affectionately known as Mo, Joe, Zoe, Chloe, Glow.
Yes.
Their nickname. Another story. But they all have, I have a special needs daughter. We can talk about that at some point. But obviously, she'll live with us her whole life. But the others made the decision on their own to plant roots here. And even though I think each one of them had, I wonder if, and maybe this, maybe that. So the dynamic has been fascinating. I mean, we have absolutely loved it. We have to pinch ourselves sometimes.
Yes.
But what we've learned is that, if you are giving your children the opportunity to make their own decision and they choose to stay with you, then it's special. I mean, it becomes something that that grows because there's so many similarities in our personalities. There are children. That they become a part of the fabric of everything you do, whether it's church, school, college, business, all of it. And so they all wear multiple hats, but they all are working for either Champion or Gospel Light, and usually one of our other businesses and or vocations.
Yes, I want to get into some of that as we go along, but sticking with this, you told me a story. I mean, on the surface, to an outsider who doesn't know the Capacis, who's looking in, you have this dynamic going on, and the family, you got a coffee shop named after you, various other things. You're like, can this be healthy? Like, what's going on? And so as I looked closer at this, and I heard stories from you. I don't know if you're willing to tell this story again, but you told me about Mo playing basketball, and he ran into some issues, and you had to play, as it were, hardball with him in order to right the ship, and that was a really good thing for him. It wasn't like you're not handing out a silver platter to these guys. They have to make their way, and not be just given a gift. I mean, is that fair? Is that?
Yes. No, you're exactly right.
I don't know if you can flesh that out a little bit, but
no, I think the danger is in having all of our children here and ingrained into the ministry and positions of leadership. None yet in an elder position or a pastor position that is an elder, but all in leadership positions. That it doesn't appear that there's any favoritism or they get to skip certain things in line to if you will earn their position. But yes, Mo, I'll be honest and frank and transparent with the Firestone Files here that my son got expelled from Champion, and it was
that had to go through you, I assume.
It did. In fact, and I look back and I love this part of the story because the EVP at the time, when he brought the news to me, he said, "Look, what Mo's issue, his problem is, it's infraction for the college. It could warrant expulsion. But President, if you like, I can work this out a different way.
Yes.
And he was kind. And I think I knew at the time, I believe he meant, it wasn't Jeremy, it was someone else.
Yes.
But I believe he meant well by that. I really think he was just thinking, here's the worst case scenario.
And what other options we might have here.
Right.
Yeah.
And I appreciated this thing. But I said, no, I know what Mo needs. Mo needs to know that he's not going to get special treatment on this. And so he called Mo in, and Mo was expelled. And, Mo tells the story now and can't cry without getting through it. He weeps every time because he says, Dad, that was the turning point in my life when I realized that I couldn't stand on Eric Capaci's character. I couldn't hide behind Eric Capaci's reputation.
Yes.
I had to choose for myself.
Yeah.
And today, as you know, he's one of the most outstanding young men that I've ever known, really. I sometimes step back and think, wow, be like him.
I think if I remember right, that team went on to win the championship that year. And he was
the water boy.
He was the water boy.
And I'm not exaggerating.
And he has skills. I mean, we know he was a good basketball player,
he
but
was really good. Yeah.
But he was expelled or at least put on probation or whatever that was,
right.
And he had to
play that year.
And he had to go through that. And now he's a leader of his family. He's a leader in the church. He's a leader of the basketball team and owns his own business and so forth.
And Chris, what's interesting about that too, you're right about all that, is the bandwidth that's given me in having conversations with other champion students.
Yes.
To be able to look at them when there's an issue, when there's a struggle, and let them know that, hey, I've been here with my own son.
Yeah.
I've sat in my office looking at my own son having to administer correction and discipline and direction.
Yeah.
And so I want to do that for you now because this is not a stranger to my own personal life. And I have seen the trajectory of those moments when young people are almost a little bit like, I can't believe this is happening to me. It changes the whole direction of the conversation.
Well, I'm definitely going to be leaning into you because I don't know that I've ever really learned that. That's such an important skill. Yeah, I'll be giving you some phone calls along the way, I'm sure. But that's super, super cool. Now, Mo's your first, and who's the youngest?
So Gloria Ann is the youngest, my special needs daughter.
Okay, right.
Special young lady. She's
so you have this huge go-getter up at the top who causes problems at a time, but he's turned his life around and is really knocking it out of the park. And then you have a special needs daughter
at the other end,
and other kids in the middle. How does those dynamics work?
So you've got three boys at front.
Okay.
Mojo and Zoe. Josiah, my second born, is the worship pastor and the children's pastor, and he is my, if you will, my liaison with all of our businesses. Yes. He works with me in our fitness center, our gym, our food truck, our locksmith, and our tanning salon. And of course, we've got one more venture that we're working on now that's still out there. But anyway, he is fascinating. That young man, because most of his ministry is Sunday oriented, most of it, he's got more time.
Yes.
And so because he's not teaching or in the college.
I see.
That helps. And so Joe has.
That's a nice addition to the family dynamics to have someone like that.
It really is. It's got that time Monday through Friday,
Right.
And so then Ezekiel is coaching high school basketball, teaching in the high school, and also is the young adult pastor. And just a great young man. I think he's gotten really close to you as well. Thank you for investing in him. And I love it because God puts men in my children's lives who have different giftings and abilities and likings and hobbies that I just never had.
Yes.
And so sometimes I feel like, there's been those moments that my kids may have been deprived of things that they would have enjoyed, but then God always comes through and, I got a Firestone. This guy loves biking and outdoors. We've gone
mountain biking quite a few times together. He and his wife actually. And so, that's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. And so, So the way it works, and then I've got Chloe. Chloe is incredible. She teaches fifth grade, and she's engaged to a wonderful young man. And I think that the way it works is each individual child is special. They all have. I've dated my children. I've grown up with these date nights. They each get a night with dad once every month, and now once every quarter. because they're older.
And I'm learning a lot from you. I got to start taking notes here.
Oh, listen, it's the greatest thing I ever did. I mean, and they could choose the place. In fact, I've always had a philosophy in life that I'd rather have a lower mortgage, a lower house payment, maybe a lower car payment, and invest hundreds of dollars into dating and food and date nights and time conversations where I'm, hey, yeah, bring a dessert out. Let's talk. Because to me, those are the moments that revolutionized my family dynamic. It was those conversations when I could lean in and say, how are you doing? Hey, Chloe, what's going on? Where are you hurting? Hey, Mo, well, what are you thinking right now? What does your future look like? These were hundreds and hundreds of, not no exaggeration, hundreds, I won't say thousands, but hundreds of conversations between my children. So that the dynamic really, I think, was formed in those moments.
Yes.
And now when the family looks back on that, it always comes up, the date nights. In fact, cool story. When Mo got married, he looked at me and he said, Dad, he said, I've got one favor to ask. And I said, what's that? He said, I know I'm married now. I got to pay my own bills. I've got a lot of responsibility, but I got to know, can we still have our date night? And I said, you got to ask Susanna. I mean, she's part of this decision. So he said, honey, what do you think? And she said, all right, once a quarter.
Wow.
Anyway.
That's super cool. And so, yeah, I mean, I really look forward, because both of our families are so sort of invested in what they're doing. We've never had the chance to get 5 and 5 together.
That's got to happen.
That's got to happen one day, because I just want to sit back with you and watch the interactions between these guys to see how those dynamics work themselves out. And
I've enjoyed getting to know your children too. I mean, as they've come back, I've gotten to know, some more than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've loved it. It's been great just watching their different personalities and different,
Well, you have added spice to their life as well, because they always come back and they're always asking questions. Now, what is that President Eric up to?
Yeah,
what's he doing now?
What's the new thing on? It's usually your fault that I've got a new thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I'm interested in two threads here, and they're hard to disentangle in some ways. I think we're doing more of the disentangling now, and that is the church ministry and Champion Christian College.
Yes.
You're I'm going to call that bivocational. I mean, you really are a pastor of the highest order, senior pastor, dynamic ministry. You have the online presence and so forth, but you also have started a college. I guess I'm interested, maybe we'll start with the ministry, but the question's the same for both. How do the triumphs and trials happen over the 30-year period? I mean, did the church just always be growing? Did it have a season where it was, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I guess I don't know a lot about that story, and I'm sure there's 1,000 stories you can tell, but maybe you can just give us
Yeah, I think I can. I'll give you what connected to my children, back to my children, because I think that's where the conversation is going, mostly is family. But so I'm pastor of Gospel Light. We were a very traditional, more of an independent church, and nothing wrong with it. We're still independent to a degree, but
right.
And somewhat legalistic without even realizing it. I don't think it was. I think the reason why the Lord's done so much transforming in my life is because I never drank the Kool-Aid of legalism. I understood, there's rules and regulations and religion and denominations and opinions that, or even loyalties to certain institutions that sometimes, without us even realizing it, guide our decisions.
Right.
But I began to realize, as my children were pushing back in their teen years to certain things that we were a little resistant to, that are these biblical issues?
Right.
Are these just preferences and opinions? And so probably the greatest trial and transition in my life was caused by a decision I made to really just get out of my world, out of this little bubble I was in.
Yes.
And just see what else is out there. Went to a couple of quick little things. Went to Brooklyn Tabernacle in New York and visited Mr. Jim Cymbala.
Yes.
At the Brooklyn Tabernacle Church. And the Lord used that experience to open my eyes to a whole nother world of evangelicalism that was just powerful.
Yes.
Went to Adrian Rogers Church in Bellevue, at Bellevue Baptist Church in Memphis, Tennessee, and saw this successful denominational church, Southern Baptist Church, but very independent, still in its conviction. And the Lord began to introduce me to people. As I began to distance myself from where I was, our ministry was losing ties with all of its growth connections. I mean, everything feeding our ministry was this group of people that I was now disappointing.
Yes.
Because I wasn't, dotting I's and crossing T's according to the Pharisees and Sadducees of the world. And so our ministry, yes, the trial of finances and loss of growth. And we basically everything either cut in half. The college as an independent college was 300 as a Baptist college, and it went down to 30.
Wow.
And I thought for sure we're going to close the doors, and the school was just barely open. The church was dying. I was 30 days from foreclosure.
Yes.
And I remember just feeling as if, I was a failure, and this was it. It was all going to end here about 2010, 2012.
Oh my goodness.
In that range. And so, but then, miracles began to happen. And again, I know this not time to tell all the stories, but God began to provide unusual, miraculous ways, beginning with $100,000 check that a man in our church gave me, and just, said, hey, get caught up on all these things. We did,
Happens to me all the time.
Yeah. It was incredible. And then bringing people into my life. Judge Ohm, our chairman of our college board, came into my life, and he began to help me get the college accredited, and began to introduce me to friends who could help fund some of these efforts, because it's obviously a very expensive journey to accreditation. And all that to say, I'm so glad I look back on that, and I'm so thankful that I followed Christ and his leadership in my life versus pleasing man, which is what I didn't realize I was doing, but I was. I mean, I was more concerned about what people thought than what the Lord was actually doing.
And so when you look at the church today, explicitly at the church, is it what you had envisioned when you stepped away from the legalistic side of things are you where you want to be, or is there more to go here?
I think there's more to go. I think anytime you swing a pendulum, it's going to swing farther at first.
Right.
Just momentum is going to swing your direction.
Right.
And so I think it's going to come a little more back to as it very slowly though. Right. I think that's been one of my, I think if I can say it like this without it seeming that I'm bragging, because I'm not, but I think being patient and waiting and respecting where people are versus the rolling people over and climbing over people to get, I think that's been a success point for us, is just taking our time, letting things slowly roll out. So I think as that pendulum comes closer, there'll be a little more of the tradition, and we're just working through that.
Right.
But I do think we're still in the process of being transformed.
Wow. The organic way you've explained the journey is pretty fascinating. I think it's a lesson to anybody going into ministry, is being teachable, learning your context, knowing the scriptures, knowing what, the non-negotiables, the negotiables, and the stuff you can let go of, all of those things. Sounds like that's quite a journey you've been on.
It is. And it's a journey that I think, Jesus went on with his disciples. As they were, they're not doing it like us. Let's call fire from heaven. And no, wait a minute. We're doing it in our name for us. May not be like we like it. Yeah. So I think that's been, a real anchor in my life is understanding that we don't all have to be twins to be brothers.
Yes.
We can have slight differences and still be very close.
Well, that's incredible. I've, as Beth and I have come to Hot Springs. We've joined the church. We're beginning to slowly roll up our sleeves and figure out how we can best serve. And that's an ongoing process. But making a slight transition back over to the college, there's two things I have in my mind here. How does starting an academy or college fit into your ministry vision? And secondly, there's a story you told me. I'd love to give it about the building itself that I still think about sometimes, because it's so. I thought it was cliche, because I was looking at your family and what you're doing here in Hot Springs, and I said, man, this sounds like a young Jerry Falwell to me. He's really doing it in not just preaching the gospel, but giving people jobs and buying businesses and growing the church in that sort of way. And lo and behold, there was a connection.
Exactly.
And so, so transitioning from the church to the academy, how did you think about that complement? And then how did you get the building and resources to do it?
Well, I love to answer that question because I know exactly how I want to answer that in a podcast setting where I've got limited time. Well, first of all, the church was growing and all by itself with just the private Christian school and the church. We had experienced a lot of growth. I mean, in a short period of time, in a very bad part of town,
Yes.
we were just busting at the seams, had already built a building. We're buying properties everywhere. And I initially felt like, hey, we could teach this. We could teach this in small town USA, in a Bible college setting. And so initially, that's all I planned on doing was more of an institute. Come here, learn about how to do what we're doing. And that's how the whole college concept started. It was, I believed we had something that could be duplicated, and there was energy and excitement, and
Yes.
it was taking off in such a short period of time. And then I read a book by Jerry Falwell called Capturing a Town for Christ. I had a friend give it to me. It's not in print anymore. You can go online, Google it, Capturing a Town for Christ, Jerry Falwell Sr., and you'll find an old copy. I found one. It's still sitting. I can take you right to it in my office. I know where it's at. It was the book that revolutionized my thinking about Hot Springs, about small town USA, about reaching America through planting churches and just organic growth. So read that book. And the church began to grow. We said, okay, this is the date we're going to start the college. And lo and behold, I get a phone call from a church, a giant church across the street from our little outfit for sale. It was a Southern Baptist church, the largest church in town, 10 acres, running over 100 rooms, 1,000-seat auditorium, all of this. And it's on the other side of the tracks, if you will. But and I was in my little mobile home. Making, I think, $14,000 a year or something. And he said, hey, Eric, he said, you're the pastor of Gospel Light, right? I said, yes. He goes, well, we're that big church across the street. We're going to sell. And I said, his name was Chuck McCall. I said, well, Chuck, I said, great guy, by the way. I said, that's great. I said, well, how much you want for the buildings? He said, well, we're asking $5.5 million. I said, we'll take it. I mean, 32, 33-year-old pastor, we'll take it, and our offerings were probably $4,000 or $5,000 a week, And so I went to our deacons and told them, and they said, preacher, that's not going to work. I said, well, okay. I said, but I can't imagine why God would allow this to come available if it wasn't for us. And so I had a friend, and I always tell this part of the story. John Morris was his name. Great guy. Still my friend. Such a blessing. Lives in Virginia. He said, Eric, he said, I may have a solution for your problem.
Yes.
I said, what is it? He goes, Jerry Falwell. I said, how am I going to talk to Jerry Falwell? He said, I know him. I've got the number to his office. I said, you do? He said, yes. He goes, let me call his secretary and see if I can get you a phone appointment with him. So he called me back the next day and said, 10 o'clock Saturday morning, here's the number. Call this number and he will answer the phone. So
That's amazing.
It was me. I got up early that morning. I had my coffee. I made sure I was in the best frame of mind I could possibly be. Dialed the number he gave me. Hello, this is Jerry Falwell. I froze. I thought, I cannot believe I'm talking to a Thomas Road Baptist Church pastor, Liberty University president, and the dynamic a lot like ours. And I said, Dr. Falwell, my name's Eric Capaci. He goes, well, how can I help you? He goes, I've seen a little bit of your story here. I go, well, I've got a big building I want to purchase in Hot Springs, but I can't afford it. I said, I figured you've probably purchased half of Lynchburg. He said, well, you have, son. We purchased it more than half. And I said, well, how do I go about it? And he said, I'd offer him $1 million. They're going to laugh at you. When you go to those deacons and that pastor, offer them $1 million. They're going to laugh at you. Walk out of the room. Let them get over it. 2 years later, they'll probably call you back, offer you for about half the price. He said, any other questions? I said, so that's it? He goes, that's what I would do. I go, okay, that's what I'll do. So that's what I did. I offered him $1 million. They laughed at me. Give me the fast version. Right. Walked out of the deacons meeting. 2.5 years later, they called me back. Cut the price in less than half. We got it for about 40 to 45% of what they originally asked.
Oh my goodness!
Bank lent us the money. That's a lot of miracles.
I know there's a lot. I remember you telling this story, and series 3, 4, 5 miracles kind of right in a row there that made that possible. Just to raise them. You were still short of the money that you needed
We
at
were.
that point.
Yeah,
And
it took 750,000, and I hate being specific, but I remember all this like it was yesterday, that the bank said we had to come up with before they would lend us the balance.
Right.
And
that's a lot of money.
wedding rings came out, car titles.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yes, keys to cars in the offer plate. I mean, it was.
I thought It's a Wonderful Life. It's like people just come in there and saying, yeah, we want to make this happen.
There would be no champion were it not for that church service.
Where my goodness.
People in the service just said, and they gave 750,000. I mean, we had, I can't even begin to tell you the things that took place in that offering to allow us to go to the bank and say, we've got our 750. They actually gave me 6 months to raise the 750. So, I'm not being, there's more to the story than just one service, but that service was a big portion of it. But anyway,
here
we are.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, and you're still kind of in the middle of this ministry, growing the college and looking, visionizing, if you will, the possibilities. I've seen a few different, buy boxes and plans and visions for it. How would you characterize where you're at right now in terms of where you want to be?
Listen, we are in a place now that I have prayed for over 10 years. I mean, Lord, we need a breakthrough. We need the right people. We need, if I could just say it like this, I'm on this podcast, we need the Firestones of the world. We need key people. We need board members. We need relationships. We need initiatives that are going to set us up to be able to purchase the buildings, to build the buildings and property acquisitions and all of this. And so I believe where we're at the moment in real time is we are on the cusp. I don't know if you read my president's email today.
I have not read it yet.
Okay,
we had faculty meetings.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
But in that letter, I said, the board has tasked me with now contacting an architect and an engineer to begin the beginning journeys of new facilities and property acquisition. So we're at a really great place right now. But this, when I say answer to prayer, Chris, I mean, I have prayed, because I remember reading Jerry Falwell's biography, and they were at the point of bankruptcy, and Jerry Falwell fasted for 40 days.
Yes.
And as a result of that, God gave him a miracle that really birthed Liberty University.
Yes.
From Liberty Baptist College. And so I think we are experiencing the first fruits.
Yes.
Of that kind of miracle.
Well, one of the things I've noticed coming down here for the last year or two that we've been here is how everybody seems to understand the vision. Like people are saying, like, this is the way to see life change in people. You have evangelism, you have baptisms, those things are going on. That's very impressive going on in the church all the time. But it's also, the tangible things of loving on people, of having houses, having places for people to stay when they come, having businesses they can work in and that sort of thing. And I guess that's a good segue to seeing. Okay, so I've got you as a bivocational guy, and by that I mean senior pastor and president of the college, but you're more than even that. And that was another thing. I mean, you own several businesses. I think you oftentimes use the term passive income.
Yeah,
it's not totally passive, because I see you and some of your sons in particular working on them. But the plates don't keep spinning unless you keep spinning them a little bit. But so you've got that side of things going, and then I was in your yard, I think it was, when I noticed this banner or something out in the back that says Capaci for mayor. I go, what? You ran for mayor at one point.
I did.
And so let's start with the additional passive income roles that you have, or jobs that you have, or businesses that you own, and then talk a little bit about the political side.
So, the businesses really came on my purview of responsibilities probably 6 years ago. It's a newer thing, but it's a dream that I always had. I always believed that I had this entrepreneurial spirit in me.
Yes.
Planting the church, starting a college, starting a coffee shop, starting a community center. I love to start things. And I think that when this opportunity to purchase at first a gym, a fitness center,
yes,
in the village, when that came available, and just randomly was working out with my friend who owned that gym. He owned 2 gyms. This was one of them. And he said, hey, I'm looking to sell. I remember that opportunity. I remember it was almost, I mean, I don't want to get spooky or anything, but I did feel like it was a moment where God clearly said, Eric, this is something I'd like for you to look into. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't hear him say that verbally, but I mean, in a sense,
But it kind of fit who you were. You're adventurous. You're entrepreneurial spirit.
right.
I know all the Capacis are athletes.
That's
you
right.
know, and
Yeah. And so that's exactly right. And so there was a lot of, connection as far as this. It made sense, and it matched a lot of the DNA of our crew. So the Lord opened the door for me to purchase that first business, excuse me. And I remember, my wife even, honey, are you crazy? Are you going to pull this off? I mean, you're already busy. And I said, well, honey, one of the principles I've lived by is my schedule is my boss. I live by a schedule, and that's how I'm able to get so much done. I don't tell my schedule what to do. My schedule tells me what to do. So
Yes.
as I organize my schedule and reorganize and reprioritize some things to be able to fit a business, and now a second, a third, a fourth. Every time I do that, there's adjustments that are being made regarding priorities. And sometimes it's usually never unfortunate for the most important things, because they continue to rise to the top. But unfortunately, I do sometimes miss out on some of the things that I would love to be able to stop and smell the roses, but
Right.
I'll have time in eternity to do a lot of that. So I do manage those things well, but my purpose for that is not so that I can live somewhere else. I still live in the same place.
Yes.
I'm not moving. I'm going to live there. I just know that's not why. When you have your motives and reasons why you do everything, you should.
Yes.
And so for me, it's more the things you mentioned, Chris. I get to hire college students. My family has passive income and other incomes. I get to maybe give more to the church and college.
Yes.
I get to sponsor things, and I get to give gifts out and birthday cards and anniversary cards. And
Yes.
it's provided some income for me to be able to do more for other people and for my family as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's step one. You said there were others. Oh yeah, you've got the hogs. Does that fall in the middle there somewhere?
Yeah, they got the food truck called Hogs. It's 5 years in, and I'm a foodie. I love food, as you know.
Yes.
And so that was just a fun outing for me and my son Joe, who was going to go to culinary school when God called him to ministry, and so he runs that food truck. We have, other students that are the main employees of it, but we kind of manage it. He manages it.
Yes.
Then there's a locksmith 2 doors down from my house. Kind of a crazy thing. I went to buy the house, and he said, I won't sell you the house without selling you the business. And so we negotiated for 1 year. 1 year of negotiations. 1 year of just working through it. And finally he got to a price where my banker said, that's a deal. And I said, I'll, and so the Lord's given me that, and it's been a blessing to so many. And then we have purchased a franchise called Everbowl. And Everbowl is more of a superfood, a health food.
Yes.
That will bring
a lot of young people are going for that stuff, my kids included.
Yes, especially anybody that's, and your kids are all athletes and runners and lean and like mine, and they don't mind. I like a balanced diet. I like a burger every now and then, but I also enjoy those kinds of food. So we're excited. I think that's going to be transformational to this city too, because it's going to bring, it's not going to be just another burger place or just another pizza place. It's going to be one of a kind. So we're excited, and those are some of the things that I've done. And the political side of it is, ran for mayor 2.5 years ago, lost, I think, by 300 votes. We came close, looked back on it, realized, man, made a lot of mistakes towards the end. Felt like that. We instead of picking up steam at the end, we lost some steam, and it I look at that as costing me the election, but then I also look at the will of God. And for whatever reason, he did not allow it to happen that time.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much of it would have taken you away from your other roles, but I was certainly glad you were available.
Yes.
So providentially there.
It was. And I think if we were to do it again, and it's on the table, we're talking, I'm starting to have more serious conversations about a second run, and one that I think, because it was so close.
Yes.
And also just the timing and the dynamics of our city and things, but I haven't made that decision yet. So just still praying.
Okay, so we can't get you on the Firestone Files to announce you're running for mayor. That would be incredible.
You can have me back.
We will have you back if that journey goes forward, because that would be a ton of fun to do with you. So we've covered quite a lot of ground. I think it's filled out a lot of details I didn't even know. Now we have today. We have new horizons. I know one of the big things happening here at Champion these days is called the dual language program. And that kind of came, I don't think I saw that on the horizon even a couple of years ago, but now how's that working out?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. This was one of those Firestone meetings in the coffee shop type thing with a man by the name of Humanities.
Yes.
From Brazil. And he lives in Orlando, and God allowed Humanities and I to meet here on campus. He came to meet me. Yes. and to introduce me to this concept of Brazilians who are living in America who are looking to stay here for their education.
Yes.
And to have a visa that would give them the opportunity to go to school, to learn English.
Yes.
It's a dual language track, which includes obviously a lot of English, but an ESO program, but a plethora of other courses that at the moment are all theological, but we're looking at business and other tracks. Hospitality, in fact, is one. And so I flew to Orlando. I said, this guy can't be for real. So I flew to Orlando to meet him, his family, his church, his friends, and I came back and thought.
I remember you talking about that meeting. He said this was much better than expected, even. It was like over the top.
It was over the top. I realized that, okay, God, this is not just, some sort, and I say this, just tongue in cheek.
Right.
This isn't some sort of a undercover thing or this. I'm not talking about someone who's trying to pull one over.
Yes.
I realized, and I thought that in the beginning, by the way, but I wanted to visit him. So on my own dime, I just flew down.
It was all confirmed through that visit. Yeah.
It was confirmed. And since that day until now, we're up to nearly 600 enrolled in that program online, and they'll be here once a semester, every student. So we'll get to see them, meet them, rub shoulders with them, connect with them. And then, of course, all of that was made possible because as that was happening, a large church in town has merged with our church. They had 12, 13 people left in a 750-seat auditorium, which we desperately needed space for the Brazilians to come and have their own campus.
Yes.
So what that church will become is not only another Gospel Light campus, but it will become the dual language track campus.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's incredible.
It really is. And so,
as you may recall, as we were touring the city when I was first talking with you and you were showing me around, and you went past that church, and I said, that's where my grandmother used to take me to church. You go, huh? And then it came full circle to be available to us by God's grace with the congregations getting a little older, and wanted to pass it on to a ministry-minded and excellent organization like Champion is, and it happened.
It happened. It happened.
It's amazing.
It really is. And I mean, if I was able to sit down with someone that would ask the question, how do you approach a small congregation? Because, I mean, in theory, there's more to this than just, oh, that's nice for Gospel Light. I mean, I really believe that every empty, paid-for church building in America needs to be filled, needs to have a purpose. Those buildings are there, and they're all over the nation.
Well, as you know, that's big in my heart, because having studied in Scotland and seeing the European beautiful church buildings, turned into museums or to community centers and so forth, I really appreciated your desire and your vision for talking to congregations before it's too late, before there's no one left, to say, can we have the seed of the ministry that started this place carry on? Because there's new life, new energy being brought in by people that are inspired by the gospel. And
you said that really well. I like that. I've never thought about that seed, because that's so true. I think what ends a lot of the conversations is when you don't recognize the value of the seed they planted.
That's right.
Because everything there is a seed they planted, and the legacy that they have, even though they're small, and even though you can critique
Yes.
why they're in the condition they're in. You can critique it or you can change it.
Well, when you showed me around the building the other day, what struck me is just how much love they had for that building. They just took immaculate care of it. Now, a little old school, because you're not having to develop it with a robust congregation. It's a smaller group, but they obviously love the ministry and the seed that they had planted there. And you're coming in, with fresh vision, with fresh eyes. It's probably got to be a gift from God for them as well. So it's kind of a mutual thing as far as I can tell.
It is. And it helped that, and I think when you first came, I drove you by the Lake Hamilton campus.
Yes.
It helped that we had done it once a couple of years ago.
Yes.
So this is the second time. And now we have 2 others that have contacted us. And so it's going to be a while. I know by now it's not oh, great. Let's sign the dotted line. No, it takes a lot of relationship building, a lot of trust, a lot of care and concern. So we are excited about potentially even putting something together for others that might be interested in hearing this part of our story as to how maybe it could apply to your story somewhere with merging with church.
Yes, no, that's fabulous. I wanted to start with both the DL and that expansion of the ministry because I consider those real. I mean, they're successful, they're tangible, they're moving forward. A couple of the other initiatives, some of them that I've been spearheading with you, are still developing.
Yes.
There's still things that are experimental. And 10 years from now, we might look back on this conversation, even mentioning them and say, why do you even mention it? I went nowhere. But right now, they have wind in their sails.
They do.
And I think it's worth at least mentioning a couple of them. I mean, one of the relationships that, when I came down, we developed together was the one with Judson and Gene Kroom. And you've taken some trips with them now. And is there anything on the horizon there that is worth talking about in terms of new endeavors?
Yes, I have great respect and admiration for Gene Kroom, president of Judson University. He has become really not just a friend, but somewhat of a mentor to me. He's been doing the college work for longer than I have. And we have similar visions, and our colleges have similar dynamics.
Yes.
And I think that our hearts have been knit together. And so I was able to go with him to the Museum of the Bible in D.C.
Yes.
and the Holocaust Museum, and that entire trip was bringing together higher ed, universities, colleges that are looking to just advance their knowledge of the Bible and teach students the values of and the importance of the foundational documents and things about our country and our spiritual values.
Well, as you remember, part of what I think God was doing in my life, pushing me out of Trinity, was putting me in contact with all these Christian leaders who already had dynamic ministries, but they weren't working together, weren't connected. Yeah. And so I didn't know that you and Gene would hit it off so well, actually. That was just one of those ones that this God thing. But
and you and I got to go together one time.
That's right. Yeah. We went up there and had some time with them. And it's just been extraordinary to see how God can unsettle you in a place and yet have bigger and better plans for you in terms of what, the effectiveness of your ministry, bringing people together. And I'm still looking forward to seeing how these might blossom in the future.
Yeah, one more thing on that one, just to encourage you about the future, is we have already committed and partnered with Judson University on next year.
Oh, right.
Taking a group of about, I think we're looking at 40, including student, staff, and faculty. And I think we'll be heavier on the staff and faculty prayerfully, even the first time we go on this trip. But to join them and to become one of the universities, colleges that joins them on this endeavor. So
that's incredible.
It's fascinating. I want you to go with me too.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm super excited about that. Situated on the Judson campus on the 3rd floor of, I don't know what that building is there, is an organization called Turning Point USA, and they have 8 wings, and the one wing that's situated there is called Turning Point Education now. Used to be Turning Point Academy. They just changed their name.
Okay. And I didn't even know that.
The head of the Turning Point Education is an old friend of mine. He was a chaplain at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School and Trinity College, and I got to know him 30 years ago. It's come full circle for me as I've been working with them on trying to start a freshman level program at various colleges, but really one college at a time throughout the country, Turning Point, what we call Turning Point Prep Year. And so I've introduced you to Hutz Hertzberg. He kind of shocked me when he came down here to meet you, because he said, I'm hearing a lot from Chris about this guy down in Hot Springs, and I got to come see for myself. So you had a time where you kind of hosted him for a day. How'd that go?
Oh, I did it a lot like I hosted you the first time. We just literally, and he wanted to. We just went to, of course, we visited our church, our college campus, the different campuses, Park Place, even though it was not Gospel Light yet. I showed him that facility. We went to the village. We looked at the different businesses I owned, and just had a tremendous time together. And yes. I didn't know for sure where it was going to go, or if it would continue. But as you know, it went to level 2. It's
been a roller coaster ride in a way, because one of the things that they've been doing is trying to get donors for this program and to get Firestone to write some curriculum for them and see if this would all come together into a real possibility. And then rather surprisingly, I think it was maybe 4 months ago, 5 months ago, seems like very short time ago, they got a donor that would cover the first iteration of prep year in the fall of 2025 in Fort Worth, Texas at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. Now, I came to you kind of sheepish at the time, because this is my second year working at Champion, and Eric, they kind of want me to kick it off for them if that's possible. And you were like, I don't know if I want to let this guy go. So, so Hutz makes this presentation to us, to me first. He's saying, you think Eric would release you for a semester to help us kick this off? We've been trying this for 3 years now. We finally got the money, and you're the guy, but I understand you're his guy too. And so how do we make this happen? And so I said, you know what, let's put a proposal together. I think it's going to need to be me continuing to be connected with Champion, continuing to be, I had some parameters around it.
Right.
And, kind of sheepishly, as I said, kind of went to you and said, what do you think about this opportunity? And I think it's a unique. What I tried to make clear was that there's only one start of prep year. This is it.
Yeah.
You miss the window to get in, to influence. And then as it develops, you weren't the guy who was there at the beginning, and I'd been with them so long. I wanted to finish what I started, and those types of things. And I have to admit that, you had, to my mind, you had pretty clear boundaries that's going to be a hard sell. But as you heard the evidence and the opportunities and stuff, and then you wrapped your mind around it, and you said, I think you talked to Hutz. I can't remember the timing of things. You started to say, well, maybe this is something that's worth continuing and pursuing. So maybe you can help us process what you were thinking there.
Yeah, I can. And I want to say 2 things about that. And these 2 things are something that I have. I'm going to give you this kind of in theory. Like, this is a practice of mine as to how I came to these conclusions. Number 1 is, how is it presented?
Yes.
Anytime I'm given a proposal, whether it's to buy a business, to start a college, however you look at the proposal, to allow a full-time employee to release him for a semester to start a program. Anytime you're faced with that, it's how it is presented.
Yes.
And I want to say that to all you listening to the Firestone Files, Chris did that in a way that was so professional and so well done and so humble and kind and considerate of the institution he was working for and had given his loyalties to as an employee, that I could not help but to consider it. There was no other way to say, we're not shutting this down. We're looking at this. We're diving in. You've given me something to think about.
Yeah.
So that's, even if I didn't come across that way, that's what I was thinking. So I'm letting you behind.
Yeah.
I'm going behind.
That's great to hear. I wasn't quite sure, but I was impressed by the apparent movement, because
it's the presentation.
Right. I was in it for so long with Hutz, with Turning Point. It just seemed like a natural closure to that effort, but expressing that to somebody who's not been in it for the same length of time, who sees it more as what is this foreign entity coming in? But you had already had some good experiences with Hutz, and I believe Hutz then wrote you an email that it was, again, I think, Hutz has grown in his own appreciation for the fact that this has to be a partnership, and I think you sensed that, and we were able to do this. So
let me give you number 2, though.
Yeah.
That was 1.
Yeah, it was 1.
Because I love number 2.
Okay.
And I don't want to miss it. And that is that my personality, and the reason why I think you and I have gelled so well, and I don't know your past and leaders in the past and presidents. I'm just speaking out of our relationship.
Yes.
I don't know the dynamics you've come out of, but I know this. Man, listen, I am an entrepreneurial spirit in ministry as well. In other words, if it means we can stretch ourselves a little farther, get creative,
yes,
and partner with multiple organizations that have the same ultimate kingdom mindedness,
yes,
let's do it. Why reinvent the wheel? Why hold back
yes,
potential by being selfish and saying, "Oh no, you're my employee." No, that's not. It's not always about me, my, and I. It's about us. It's about the kingdom. So my personality has always been, hey, let's give this a shot.
Yes.
I mean, the worst thing we could do is have to back up and punt.
Right.
And we may have had to, but we didn't.
Well, that just confirms, all those, initial conversations we had and everything else, because as you know, I had a few other job opportunities at the time, but the combination of my dad being in Hot Springs and Eric Capaci and his vision and his flexibility, and I think that entrepreneurial spirit was so liberating for me. I just said, I've got to go on this journey with this guy for a while and see what the Lord might do with this.
Two 60-year-olds collided at a time in their lives where they're on their final lap. And I mean, I think the final lap's got 20, 30 years, right? Hopefully. But I think both of us realized at the same time that there was potentially a really good chemistry in these two men and their backgrounds and their families. And that's kind of the whole conversation.
Yes.
Is it collided at a time when I think both of us kind of saw it was time to maybe let go of just the same old, and let's expand our horizons and see. It's a risk.
Yeah.
There's risk involved. There's Beth was with us the whole way. I mean, you were, let me talk to Beth first. Let me ask Beth, which I respected.
You speak of Beth, there was a moment when I was really leaning to going a different direction. And, you had once again made it, you put the red carpet out and said, Chris, we want you here. And I think it was a phone call with my kids, and one of my kids, my son in particular, made the case for champion. And Eric Capaci in the ministry. And I go, and then Beth looks over at me. She said, and I'm a little surprised, Chris, that you're not giving your dad more consideration too.
Harry, come on.
And that surprised me because, there's the standard, professorship job, insurance package and all of that and so forth. And then there's this entrepreneurial risk-taking off, the shackles ministry that Eric Capaci represents. What are you going to do with the last 10 years or, 20 years of your life, whatever God graces you with? And I sat on that for a day or two. I go, son of a gun. Yeah. I think God's calling me down there.
I love it.
So anyway,
that was great. That was a great question. And I'm glad I got to answer it.
Well, thank you so much for your time here. There's so much more that we could go into the minutia on, and maybe we'll get a chance in some other time to do that. I'd love that if you come back.
I'd love to tell some more stories, and more have a little more time to elaborate on some really cool things.
Yeah, we will do that down the road. But for now, we'll just have to bring this to a close, I guess. But thank you so much for your friendship, for your leadership, for your way in which you handle your business and the church, and your aspirational spirit. And so it creates a big wake, and there's a lot of people who kind of float through that wake. And I think God's going to do some great things in the future with that. So
amen.
Thank you so much. And that brings us to a close of the Firestone Files. Thanks for watching, and do write us back if you have any questions or you want to hear more about these stories. Love to hear from you. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by to spend some time with me here on the Firestone Files. I hope today's reflections offered you some new insights and perspective on life. If you enjoyed the episode or found it valuable, I'd appreciate it if you'd take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone you care about. I'd also love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you? What challenged you? Or what would you like to hear more about in future episodes? Drop a comment below or send in your suggestions to the email in the description. Your input helps shape where we go next. This has been Dr. Chris Firestone. Until next time, keep asking the big questions. And remember, the kingdom journey is always best with your friends. Further up and further in. Bye for now.